Welcome back, dear students. Today we are going to learn the drafting of a relinquishment deed. You must know what is relinquishment. Relinquishment means to give up, to renounce, or abandon, or leave behind, or surrender, or relinquish a possession or right. You see, relinquishment is a sort of quit claim by a deed. By this, one literally quits whatever claim he has in the property, hence the name quit claim. It amounts to transfer of property by the quitter in the name of someone else. So far as relinquishment deed is concerned, since it amounts to transfer of a property, its registration is compulsory under section 17 of Indian Registration Act 1908. So dear students, relinquishment deed is a legal document or an instrument where a person legally or formally gives up or releases his right of the said property being relinquished in the name of some other person. And this is one of the mode of transferring rights in immovable property. Now the question arises, who can relinquish his rights? The relinquishment of property can only be done by someone who has a share in the property. In case there are more than one owners in a property, either of the co-owner can do relinquishment. And for a valid relinquishment, the essentials of a valid contract are to be followed, other than the compensation. Now, what is the distinction between relinquishment and release deed? Relinquishment, dear students, relinquishment deed and release deed, both are similar to a binary contract and they require the same essentials to become a valid deed. Relinquishment deed is formed between the two parties with or without consideration, whereas release deed specifically needs a consideration for a valid deed. So in relinquishment, it may be relinquished without consideration, but release means with consideration. So this is the distinction. Now, generally, you will see that relinquishment is done in a family. Suppose if a person dies intestate, his property devolves or is inherited by his legal heirs. Now, if there are two or more legal heirs and they wish to separate the property further, they can resort to relinquishment deed, which allows a smooth transfer of property, where a legal heir gives up his legal right in an inherited property for another legal heir, such as his mother, son, daughter, brother, or sister. So that is known as relinquishment in a family. And the process of transferring property from one co-owner to another co-owner with or without consideration is known as a relinquishment of property. And this relinquishment can be done in favor of a person other than co-owner. Yes, in case of relinquishment is made in favor of a person other than co-owner or legal heir, the transaction shall be treated as a gift if made without consideration, and it will be called as a sale if made with consideration. The relinquishment deed must be signed by all the parties, and it must be attested by at least 2 witnesses, and it must be registered in the office of sub-registrar within whose jurisdiction the property is situated. Now, essential part of it and aspect of it is that relinquishment deed is irrevocable. Likewise, a release or relinquishment deed is irrevocable even if it is made without consideration. So, dear students, relinquishment of a right in immovable property needs to be done only through a written document called relinquishment deed, which must be signed by all the parties and witnesses and witnessed by at least 2 witnesses. A release of right in immovable property should be made only by registered instrument or registered deed. It attracts the same amount of stamp duty and registration charges as a sale deed. In fact, it is a transfer of property in accordance with Transfer of Property Act 1882. Now, with this background knowledge in mind, Now we will start drafting the actual relinquishment deed. So heading will be Relinquishment Deed by a member of a Hindu undivided family. This deed of relinquishment is executed on this first day of January 2017 between who are the parties to the deed. A, son of B, with complete address, is the first party. C, son of B, with complete address, is second party. And D, son of B, is the third party of second part. So there are three parties. Both the parties hereinafter collectively shall be referred as parties and individually as the first party and the second party respectively, which expression shall include their respective lawful successors, heirs, representatives, and assigns also. Now the history of the deed begins with the word whereas. Whereas, number one, the parties constitute a joint Hindu family. The first party does not want to continue and want to separate all relationship with the joint family. Para 2. For evading unnecessary controversy and to keep peace, the second party has agreed to the demand of the first party, and parties have arrived at an amicable settlement which is fair and just to both the parties. All the property of joint Hindu family is shown in Annexure A to this deed, whose valuation is approximately 3 crore rupees. Third, it has been agreed between the parties that the first party shall release all his claims and shares in the joint Hindu family property against consideration of rupees 1 crore as paid by the second party. So first party has received his one-third share and he is relinquishing all his shares in favor of second party, that is remaining two brothers. This is the history of the relinquishment deed. Now comes the operative part of this deed, which begins with these words. You will have to draft it like this. Now therefore this deed witnesses as follows. Para number 1. That for a consideration of rupees 1 crore, receipt of which is acknowledged by first party, the first party relinquishes all his claims, rights, title, interest, and demands in the joint Hindu family property. Para 2. The first party hereby also consents that all the dates from the date of this relinquishment deed, first party shall have no interest or share in the joint Hindu family property since he has taken away his share in the shape of 1 crore rupees. Para 3. The first party hereby declares that in consideration of the sum received so by him in lieu of his share in the joint Hindu family property, the first party has from the date of this covenant severed all his relationships from the second party and from the joint family. The first party also declares that from the date of this covenant, he has relinquished and discharged the second party along with all members of joint Hindu family from any or all obligations for partition of joint Hindu family property with him at any time falling after the date of execution of this agreement. So first party has severed all his relationships and he is no more part of the joint Hindu family and he cannot claim partition later on because he has taken his 1/3 share in the shape of rupees 1 crore. Para 4. The second party confirms and declares that the first party has ceased to be a member of joint Hindu family and he shall have no right, title, and interest or claim concerning the property belonging to the joint Hindu family from the date of this covenant. So dear students, from the date of this relinquishment deed, second party is also confirming that first party has ceased his membership from joint Hindu family. Para 5. This deed has been prepared and drafted by mutual agreement of the parties. See, you are lawyer, you are drafting this deed. So this deed has been prepared and drafted by mutual consent, mutual agreement of the parties. Any party is not empowered to assail it on any reason whatsoever. So all the parties have come to you as a Client, you are the advocate and you have drafted this relinquishment deed on the basis of mutual agreement of the parties. Para 6. The second party shall keep the original deed. Its true copy signed by both the parties shall be kept by the first party, and this true copy will be considered as effective as original deed for all purposes and intents. You know, the original deed is always kept by the purchaser. Here the purchaser is second party, who are the part of joint in the family. So they will keep the original deed, original relinquishment deed. Now, since two witnesses are also required, so you will draft this last portion of the deed as in witness whereof the parties to this deed have set their hands in the presence of following two witnesses on the date, month, and year above written. So first of all, signatures of parties are to be obtained. First of all, signature of A son of B, then signature of C son of B, and then signature of D son of B are to be obtained on this deed. And then witness number 1 will put his signatures with complete name and address like C son of D, resident of flat number 510 Designers Park, sector 62 Noida, district Gautam Buddha Nagar, UP. And witness number 2 will also put his signatures and his complete name and address like E son of F, flat number 511 Designers Park, sector 62 Noida, district Gautam Buddha Nagar, UP. His complete address is to be given. And dear students, I told you earlier while dealing with the concept of sale deed that entire schedule of property to be sold or to be relinquished is to be made part of this deed. And both the parties will give their identity proof also, like photocopy of Aadhaar number, Aadhaar card, along with their PAN number of Income Tax Act, and then their email addresses and mobile number also of all the three parties will be drafted and written in this deed. And similarly, for identification of witnesses also, the photograph of witness number 1, photograph of witness number 2 are required, and their copy of their Aadhaar cards will also be appended in this deed as part of the deed. And their mobile address, mobile number, and email addresses are also to be written as part of this relinquishment deed. So dear students, this is how today we have learned the drafting of a relinquishment deed. So dear students, thank you very much.